I'll tell you right now, I feel very similarly about the Pelicans tonight as I did about the Lakers last night. Feel very strong about the Pelicans tonight against the Thunder. Oklahoma City right now leads New Orleans 28-27. If that game gets if that lead for the Thunder gets a little bigger, and you can get the Pelicans at, say, -2.5, -1.5, some number that's almost negligible, to me, I think it's worth throwing some shekels on the Pelicans tonight. Love New Orleans. Right now at -4.5, I'm not crazy about it. But root for a couple of Thunder buckets, get the lead up to 5, and you'll see that Pelicans number shrink a little bit, and then you have an opportunity to make some money. That's the key with live betting. You got to sit there and monitor it and wait for your opportunity, and then you got to pounce. You can't wait. You can't wait. So Thunder up 1 in the early going. We'll keep you posted on it. We have telephone numbers. 1-800-224-2004 is the call-in number. 800-224-2004. I mean, let's just talk about LeBron. I don't care where you're listening to us, where you're calling. There aren't a lot of professional athletes today that transcend, or, even if you're not a big NBA fan, I've often asked, are there any of these guys left? Are there athletes that, when it really matters, big moments, I'm not talking about a regular season NBA game in, February or November, but in big moments, key times, I mean, is there anybody more exciting to watch than LeBron James? Anybody more captivating to watch than LeBron James? Especially when you consider that he's 38 years old. 38. 20 years of tread on those tires. And there's just no way. There's no way that even the most ardent LeBron haters, and there are plenty of them out there, it amazes me how few people appreciate LeBron James. I shouldn't say that. It amazes me how many people don't appreciate LeBron. There's a lot of people that do, but it amazes me how many people just hate on LeBron. And look, maybe it's the same reason some people hated on Jordan. Hell, there were people that hated on Jeter. I hated on Jeter, and I'm a Yankee fan, and I hated on Jeter. Okay, here's your moment, by the way. Thunder lead the Pelicans 32-27. I'm giving you a lesson. Class is in session with Professor Page. See, it was down to 2.5. Now it's back to 3.5. You got to hit it at the right time. You just do. You got to get the Pelicans. If you can get the Pelicans at 2.5. Right now, they're at 3.5. You can get them at 2.5. I like it. 1.5, even better. The text line, if you want to reach out to the show, is 888-670-8549. We're already getting some texts from folks tonight. 888-670-8549. Matter of fact, here's a text from the 214. That is in Texas. And Jerry says, thanks for the tip on the Lakers game. Close, LOL. Asked him if he made some money on the game. He said, Yeppers, bet it 3 times. That's what I'm talking about. You can send any tips you want my way there, by the way. He said, thanks for the tip on the Lakers game. You can send me a tip if you want. See? That's what I'm talking about. Justin Barbosa is our producer-engineer working on the show tonight in Houston. See, Justin? You listen to me? You win money. Could have paid the rent last night. That was it. Yeah, say you live with your parents. That's true. Then you could have made money so that you could eventually pay your own rent. That was it last night. Oh, see, you weren't working on the show last night. And if you weren't working on the show, I can damn well guarantee you weren't listening to the show. God knows. Listen, if I wasn't working on the show, I wouldn't listen either. When I'm not on the air, I'm not listening to my fill-in. Especially because it's VEASAN. And no offense to VEASAN, doesn't do it for me. So congrats to Jerry in Texas last night, who said he bet it 3 times. See now, Jerry? Now I got some cred with you. So when I tell you I like New Orleans tonight, to go and bang New Orleans, right now they're minus 3.5, which I think this game's going to be relatively close late. End of the first quarter, Thunder lead the Pelicans 32-29. And much like the T-Wolves who ran out of gas last night, I don't think you're going to see the Thunder run out of gas late. That's a young basketball team, fresh legs. That team won't get tired late. They might make mistakes because this is a totally new situation for this group of basketball players. But if they're mistakes, they'll just be mistakes of, energy and not having been in the moment before. And that's what I'm counting on. Pelicans are minus 180 on the money line right now. The total is 227.5. And you got 61 points scored in the opening quarter. So you start to project it out. 227.5 feels kind of low. But it's also the playoffs. There's a lot more defense played in these playoff games typically. I'd like to say it was defense that was the cause of what we saw last night with the Lakers and T-Wolves. Just neither of those teams could make any shots in the fourth quarter. I think combined they had like 7 or 8 made field goals in the fourth quarter of that. Did you watch? Tell me, Justin, tell me you watched that game last night. Tell me you were watching that game. I guess that's all you needed to see. It was a hell of a game. Wasn't pretty. Wasn't anything you'd put on a basketball tutorial. I heard Charles Barkley all bent out of shape about it after the game. He sounds more and more like the old man on the front porch saying, "Get off my lawn," by the way. And Charles is bitter about a lot of things. A lot of passive bitterness. And again, I like Charles Barkley. I think he's entertaining. I think he's funny. I think I've told the story once how I ran into Barkley. I was working at NBC Sports Radio. It was like 2014 or 2015. And this was when CBS started bringing those guys up to New York for the Final Four, as opposed to Atlanta where they do inside the NBA. And I was working in even though I worked for NBC, long story, we did our shows from a place called the CBS Broadcast Center, which is where everything CBS News and a lot of CBS Sports operates out of. And while we are doing our show on NBC Sports Radio, I have to run to the bathroom during the break. I got to run down the hall, fly around the corner, and boom, I run into a brick wall. It was Charles Barkley. Didn't say anything. Just bumped into each other. He is a large human being. Large human being. See, now the line's back up to 4.5. So I don't know how good a number you're going to be able to get it at as long as this is a 1.2 point game. But if the Thunder bust out and get like a 5 or 6 point lead, which is certainly conceivable in the types of swings you're going to see in this game, make sure to get a bet in on the Pelicans. Right now it's 3.5. If it gets to 2.5, I will keep telling you, watch the live betting. If the Pelicans get to a point where they're, minus 2.5, I'd say take the Pelicans. Right now, they're minus 3.5. If you choose to take them at that number, you do so at your own peril. My number is 2.5. Chris Mannix is a fantastic basketball writer. He is with SI. You can check out his work there. He also hosts the Crossover podcast. And he's with NBC Sports Boston, and talks about a lot of Celtics stuff. He's going to join us coming up in just a moment. I had a chance to talk to him right before we came on the air today for a little TV project we're working on. And Chris Mannix, that conversation with him coming up in just a couple of minutes. He's our 2-for-1 tonight on the show. So stick around for that. We'll get his thoughts on LeBron last night, some of these first-round matchups in the postseason as well. Don't you go anywhere. We're just getting started on this Wednesday edition of The Cash In. I'm Jason Page. Good to have you with us on SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. You can come back with a normal rejoin because I got to throw to it. And it's the two segments are like 7.5 minutes each. So there's plenty of time. And now it's 40-40. Oh, not for long. Hello! 42-40 New Orleans. A little stink face. Good to have you with us tonight. Good to have you with us. Rolling along on the show tonight, we'll be joined in a couple of moments, my conversation with Chris Mannix. We won't actually be joined by him because I spoke to him just before we came on the air today. So I don't want to misrepresent what's going on here. Especially because you'll be able to tell the audio sounds different because I interviewed him for a TV thing we were doing today. So Chris Mannix does a great job, SI and NBC Sports Boston. And you'll hear from him coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Let him get his thoughts in on the NBA postseason, which is getting into full swing here. So we'll see what's going on. See, you'll be able to hear what he thinks of LeBron. I am a LeBron fan. I am an unabashed LeBron fan. Now, I am not an apologist. When LeBron says or does something stupid, and he's had more than his share of hiccups off the court, little stuff, sometimes big stuff. Certain comments he's made. And sometimes, when you get a situation like that, LeBron can sometimes get himself into trouble, say the wrong thing. But like so many people, like so many professional athletes, he's really as close to, when you think about guys that get a pass, he's really as close as a guy that you will find as a guy that basically gets a pass from the media in most instances. So we'll have we'll have Chris Mannix coming up here in just a moment. You'll get to hear from him. So get his thoughts on what happened last night. In fact, here it is. I asked Chris Mannix of Sports Illustrated and NBC Sports Boston, about the play we talked about at the top of the show tonight, where you essentially had the embodiment of everything that LeBron James has been about his entire career. The dive for the loose ball, then the kick out for the three to Schroeder late in the game. And here's what Chris had to say about it.
Well, the fact that he's going, 45, 46 minutes in a play-in game at, 38 years old was remarkable. I thought the dive was interesting only because LeBron was trying to save his own turnover there. I mean, he made the bad play that forced the ball into the backcourt and led to that dive. But, you watch him out there and he's still the most athletic guy on the floor. He's still the most explosive guy on the floor. And I'm not sure when that's ever going to change. Like, if it's not changing at 38 years old, is it going to change next December when he turns 39 or 40? I mean, he really is an athletic marvel, the likes of which we'll probably never see again.
No, I know, and it really is amazing. And then I guess the other play that sort of embodies him, which gets overshadowed because of the Anthony Davis turnover, is the drive to the basket late in the game, the kick to Dennis Schroeder, who hits the three. And again, it's another one of those plays that if you look at his career, it's always been, for all the scoring and the accolades for that and breaking Kareem's record this year, that play, driving to the basket and then finding the open man, that's LeBron in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I was talking to Dwayne Wade about this recently, and we were talking about LeBron breaking the scoring record. And, one thing Wade said was, if there was a record you'd have expected him to be creeping in on, it would be the assist record, because he is a pass-first type of player, and he always has been. I mean, that play was fascinating because if Dennis Schroeder doesn't make that shot, LeBron's getting killed the next day. He's getting killed. People in LA are saying Kobe would have taken it. Name any other superstar. Michael would have taken it. But you're right. LeBron, virtually every time he's in that situation over the last 20 years, he has often passed out because that's the right thing to do. I mean, in that moment, passing the ball was the smart play. The defense had collapsed on him. He had no shot basically underneath the backboard. But in those kind of moments, we have become programmed to expect our stars to take shots and make shots regardless of the defensive situation. LeBron's never had that mindset. He's always been, I'm going to make the right play. And the right play was Dennis Schroeder, who, to his credit, knocked the shot down.
Yeah, he certainly did. And now we talk about the Lakers and the Memphis Grizzlies and kind of fast forward ahead to this weekend and the big games to start this playoff round. I know we think the West is wide open. Memphis and the Lakers, obviously a great matchup. Give me some sense for the Lakers' chances. This is a much different team than the one they started the season with.
Yeah, I think they've got a great chance. In fact, I'd go as far as say I think they're going to win. Look, Memphis is also not the team we saw in the first half of the season. Most significantly, Brandon Clark isn't there. Brandon Clark was a key role player, done for the season with that Achilles injury. That's a 20, 25-minute per game guy that the Grizzlies no longer have in their rotation. And look, the more time that passes between what happened with Ja Morant and today, the better it's going to be in Memphis. But that situation is still relatively fresh. And I think that, at the very least, doesn't have Memphis peaking going into the playoffs. And you look at some of these matchups. I mean, look, Anthony Davis against Jaren Jackson Jr., that's tough. Jackson might be Defensive Player of the Year, but I give Davis an edge in that matchup. LeBron versus whoever, Memphis is going to roll out there at small forward, whether it's Desmond Bane or anybody else. LeBron's got the guy in that matchup. And look, I think the Lakers, because of the trades they've made, have kind of a wave of guys in the backcourt that can be effective, whether it is Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, Schroeder, who, by the way, should only play for the Lakers the rest of his career. It seems like he's bad everywhere else but Los Angeles. I just think the Lakers, because of how top-heavy they are with LeBron and AD, and because of the moves they made that put them in position to have shooting and playmaking around those guys, let's just say this. If they steal one of those first two games in Memphis, it's over. It's over. They're going to win that series because they'll regain home court advantage.
Talking with Chris Mannix. Chris, the series that's the most juicy in the West is obviously Golden State and Sacramento, and nobody's giving Sacramento a chance. So try and give me some sense for why we could believe the Kings do wind up beating the Warriors.
Well, I'm not sure that they do. Look, Golden State's defensive issues are real, and they are not simply resolved because Andrew Wiggins is back. Andrew Wiggins played almost the entirety of the first half of the season, and Golden State on the road was an abysmal defensive team. So he doesn't change that. And the odds that we're going to see the real Andrew Wiggins, at least for the first couple of rounds of these playoffs, are not high because you don't take 20 some odd games off and come back and hit the ground running. He certainly helps, and it makes their bench deeper because you can move guys back to that second unit. Jordan Poole, Gary Payton's going to be back in that mix. But Golden State's defensive issues are real. And if there's anything Sacramento can do, it's score. I mean, they have one of the most prolific offenses that we've seen since the Mike D'Antoni era. They really do. They might be more prolific at times and in different ways than what Golden State was in its heyday. Not better, but very different because Sabonis is the head of the snake with that team offensively. So their chance to win is simply just putting it on Golden State defensively and winning some of these games 140, 128, 135, 120. They are a cartoonishly bad defensive team. Like they try hard, but they are just individually, basically outside of Davion Mitchell, 1 through 8, bad defensively.
But are they?
But if they,
let me stop you and ask you: are they that bad? Because I
Yes.
went nuts the other night. I think they gave up 69 in the first half at home to Oklahoma City, or 70 something. I mean, it was an absurd number. And then in the second half, they gave up 47. And I'm sitting there trying to ask myself:
blind luck?
Is it
Blind lit out?
What is it?
It's not effort. I've watched a lot of Kings games, several in person. They play hard on that end of the floor. They're just bad. Like Sabonis is a bad defensive player. Fox is an average to below average defensive player. Keegan Murray, average to below average defensive player. Look, they've got a coach who is renowned for being a defensive minded guy who comes into this coaching situation with a great defensive, backdrop, a great defensive history. And they're still bad. Look, they're better than last year because last year they were, god awful, but they're still not good. And really, outside of Davian Mitchell, there's nobody you can put on Steph or Clay or whomever and expect to at least make them work for stops. So in my mind, they have to just, basically collect the ball out of the basket and try to get more threes than twos than Golden State does on that end.
All right, so those are some thoughts from Chris Mannix. We'll get more from him coming up in just a couple of moments. Hear what he has to say about the Eastern Conference. Do my Knicks have a chance to do anything? You'll be interested to hear what he has to say about that. What can the Knicks do in a 7-game series with the Cleveland Cavaliers? And can anybody get by can anybody upset the scenario of a Boston-Milwaukee Eastern Conference final at this point? We'll ask Chris Mannix about that as well. He from Sports Illustrated and NBC Sports Boston. We continue with the cash-in. Pelicans trailing the Thunder 50-47. We'll watch that too. It's SportsMap Radio.
For the Knicks and Cavaliers, this 4-5 matchup, we obviously know Boston and Milwaukee are pretty safe. Rough start to the season, played really well. A lot of all right, Chris, give me
We keep on keeping on this Wednesday edition of the show. Thunder lead the Pelicans 54-51. It's still in that zone where it's at 3.5 points. Now it's 54-53. Sorry. Again, if you take the Pelicans at -3.5, you do it at your own peril. If you get it at 2.5, though, I love the Pelicans. I love the Pelicans -2.5. So keep an eye on it from a live betting standpoint. If you're talking about the money line, it's -196 right now. That's a lot of juice for an NBA game where, as much as we like to think we know, certainly anything can happen. But I feel the same way about the Pelicans tonight that I felt about the Lakers last night. I don't think there's any way the Pelicans lose this game. I don't care what the score is now. I don't care what the score is at the end of 3 quarters. I don't even care what the score is with 6 minutes left in the fourth. It's going to be a close game, and I trust the team that has experience in this spot. We talked about it last night on the show. Who knows when they're going to have Zion Williamson back, because as of right now, it sounds like he is not going to be available if they make it to the first round of the postseason. And again, a reminder, the winner of this Pelicans-Thunder game will get the T-Wolves on Friday night. You'll have the Bulls taking on the Heat on Friday night. And then you'll have the winner of this Minnesota game, or I should say the winner of this Thunder-Pelicans game playing against Minnesota. 4 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. Pacific for those of you looking for those games on Friday night. So we'll actually be on the air during that Minnesota game against the winner of this matchup. And you got the Thunder at the line right now with a chance to up the lead to a few. Like I said, if you can get it at 2.5, if you can get the Pelicans at 2.5, that's the number you want to get them at. Right now it's at 4.5. And again, this is why you just got to keep monitoring it. All right, continuing the conversation with Chris Mannix, NBA writer and reporter, SI and NBC Sports Boston. Let's shift gears and talk about the Eastern Conference with him, particularly the 4-5 matchup between the Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers, the 4 seed, the Knicks, the 5 seed. What kind of chance do the Knicks have, and how much of it will it depend on the health of Julius Randle?
All right, Chris, give me some sense for the Knicks and Cavaliers, this 4-5 matchup. We obviously know Boston and Milwaukee are pretty safe as far as the opening round of this postseason is concerned. But give me some thoughts on the Knicks, who certainly, after a rough start to the season, played really well. A lot of people look at the Cavaliers as that team that's the next tier down, along with the Sixers from Boston and Milwaukee. What kind of a chance do you give the Knicks, and how much will Julius Randle have to do with that?
This is probably the most compelling first-round matchup in either conference because, both these teams are pretty evenly matched. It's compelling because Donovan Mitchell is going to be in Madison Square Garden in Game 3, and that script writes itself because of what happened this past offseason. You mentioned Randle, and that's my biggest question going into this series because Julius Randle has shown for the better part of the last 3 seasons that he can be a really, really effective regular season player. But in the playoffs, when you go up against a good defense and you give an opposing coaching staff just one team they have to dig into, Atlanta certainly found a way to get to Julius Randle. And they didn't do it through rocket science either. They just showed Julius Randle a second defender when he had the ball on the perimeter, and Julius Randle took dozens of contested twos in that first round series against the Hawks, and it was a disaster. Now, things have changed in New York. There was no Jalen Brunson 2 years ago. Jalen Brunson has made the Knicks a lot more diverse offensively, and his presence, I would argue, has helped Julius Randle regain that all-NBA level form that he had a couple of years ago. But still, there are times I watch Julius Randle, and especially in the fourth quarter, and he just becomes kind of a vacuum where he just gets the ball and decides he's going to make the play because he's the all-star, he's the face of this franchise, and he's going to be the one to do it. And when he does that, 9 times out of 10, it's not a positive outcome. So that concerns me about the Knicks going to the playoffs because they're going to go up against the number 1 defensive team in the NBA, a team that really offensively is built to play in the playoffs because they had one of the slowest paces in the NBA. They did not play in transition. They just played half-court basketball, and that should bode well for their chances in the playoffs. They're deep. They're big on the front line. They got a lot of good quality defenders they can throw out there. I think how Julius Randle goes is how the New York Knicks go. If he has an efficient series, the Knicks are going to win it. If he has a series like he had against Atlanta, they'll get beaten 5 or 6 games.
Boston and Milwaukee, all year long battling for the top spot in the Eastern Conference. At the end of the year, you look at the standings, and they're relatively close. Obviously, Milwaukee winds up with the top seed. But the feeling around the Celtics still feels so much more ominous than it does around Milwaukee. Tell people why that is.
Yeah, I mean, they've had like a Benjamin Button type season when compared to a year ago. I mean, a year ago, they started off in the toilet, and then in mid-January, they found a rhythm and just built on it all the way into the NBA Finals. This year, they picked up where they left off early, but some of the adversity they've hit along the way, they haven't recovered from quite as well as I think people would like. Some of that is injuries. Rob Williams being in and out of the lineup, that's been problematic for this team. Grant Williams has been a problem. Look, the Celtics don't get past the second round of the playoffs last year without Grant Williams being great. Go back to Game 7 against the Bucks. It was Grant Williams, not Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, that really won that game for Boston on their home floor. He has not been the same player we've seen from years ago. So, look, I reserve judgment on Celtics against Bucks until I see who's playing for Celtics against Bucks. Chris Middleton is once again dealing with another injury. I don't know what Robert Williams is going to look like once he gets that deep into the playoffs. I just need to see who's got the full strength on the personnel side before I can predict which of those two teams will come out of the East. But I do think they're the two teams that'll be standing in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Give me the one team that can upset that scenario. Is it Philadelphia?
I like to say it's Philadelphia because it's an easy one, but the Sixers, Boston just owns the Sixers and has for the last couple of years. I mean, look at the game from a week and a half ago where Joel Embiid went for 52. They needed all 52 of those points just to win. And the Celtics were playing, I believe, without Brown and without Robert Williams. And, they weren't at full strength. And still the Sixers almost lost it. Boston just seems to have the right matchups for them. They got a bunch of guards with Smart and Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon that they can throw at Harden and Tyrese Maxey. Al Horford does a credible job defending Joel Embiid, always has. And Rob Williams back there, that's another big shot blocker that they can put on that front line. I don't think Philadelphia gets past Boston, if we're being honest. And if it's not Philadelphia, maybe it's Cleveland. I mean, I've got a story going up on SI.com on Thursday about the Cavaliers and if they're ready or not. Because in talking to Donovan Mitchell, he believes that they have all the pieces there. They've got size, they've got skill, they've got him, quite frankly, to be that lead guard that can make shots in the closing seconds. What they don't have is experience. And history shows you can't succeed in the playoffs without experience. Now, can they overcome that because they're talented? Maybe, but if we're looking at second round matchups and teams to upset the apple cart and get to the finals, I would like Cleveland's chances of beating Milwaukee more than I like Philadelphia's chances of beating Boston.
That's Chris Mannix of Sports Illustrated. Check out his work at SI.com, NBC Sports Boston as well, and the Crossover NBA podcast. Chris, always appreciate it, my friend. It's been a long time. I'm glad we got to do it. Let's do it again soon.
You got it. Anytime.
And that again, Chris Mannix. Appreciate him joining us. Well, the time may have passed. There's a lot of game to go, but they're at the half, and New Orleans leads Oklahoma City 63-57. And that puts the live betting line at the Pelicans -6.5. That's a big number. That's a big number. I'll tell you where I would go. You ready for this? 230.5 is the total. I would go under 230.5. I think you get more defense in the second half. Yeah, I mean, look, you're talking about a game with 120 in the first half. I would venture to say you're probably going to get more defense in the second half. I'm not calling it a lock. We're not adding it to the ledger. But if I was leaning anywhere right this second, I'd be leaning towards the under with the Pelicans and Thunder, where possessions start to become more of a premium thing. But We'll wait and see. Early lines are out, by the way, for the Friday night game between the Bulls and the Heat. We'll talk about that coming up in a couple of minutes. Next hour, we'll get into some of the early lines on the playoff games for this weekend that are going to be underway. And an NBA coaching legend going toe-to-toe with a United States senator. Yep, that senator. We're talking about it next on the Cash In. Another hour of the show starts right now on SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. The telephone number, if you've got a thought, 1-800-224-2004. 1-800-224-2004. Is LeBron, I am really curious to know. We were talking about LeBron in the first hour because what he did last night, he basically willed the Lakers to victory in a battle of attrition. Neither team can make a shot. I mean, you just watch him, and you could tell he just wants it a little more than you do. And, that's the other thing. Can I just throw this in as well before I get to an NBA coaching legend exchanging verbal jabs or tweet jabs or whatever with a United States senator? Thinking about the Dallas Mavericks tonight, and by the way, hello to our friends listening in 97.1 The Freak in Dallas. Thinking about our friends in Dallas, watching these playing games. I've now watched 3 play-in tournament games. And 2 of the 3 were riveting. They were exciting. The crowds were into it. Now, basically 3 of the 4. Because, this Pelicans Thunder game will be a close game. And you could tell fans in New Orleans are pumped up. But you watch these play-in tournament games. And how, as an organization, the Dallas Mavericks could sit there and say, yeah, you know what, we'll pass. And again, who knows? Maybe they lose. Maybe they don't win the last 2 games if they have Kyrie and Luka on the floor. I would tend to say they would have. But think about the fact that that organization made the choice to deprive their fans of what we've been watching the last 2 nights. And tell me how that's a good decision by an owner. What, because you might get the 10th pick? Might get the 10th pick. Maybe you move up. Maybe by some miracle you get, one of the better picks. It's unlikely. You're probably going to be at 10, and there's a chance you can lose the pick altogether if somebody from 11 to 14 leapfrogs you in the process. Then you wind up with no pick. And you threw away an opportunity for one of the game's biggest stars to play in the play-in tournament and potentially the postseason. Let's just say it. Listen, I've beaten the dead horse on this whole Mavericks thing with them mailing it in. And the league's going to do whatever it decides to do in terms of punishing them. And I don't think it's going to be anything that Mark Cuban can't handle. But watching, the game's best and brightest stars, and in some cases, some of their oldest stars with LeBron, play in these play-in tournament games. And I don't know how people feel about the play-in tournament. I, for one, like it. But to me, Dallas missed out. And their fans missed out. I feel bad. I feel for their fans. That's a good fan base down there in Dallas. 1-800-224-2004 is the telephone number if you want to buzz us during this hour of the show. 800-224-2004. You can text the show from anywhere at any time. 888-670-8549. 888-670-8549 if you want to hit us on the text line as we go through the show. There is usually very little good that can come from a United States senator going toe-to-toe with an NBA coaching legend. There just isn't. And look, there are a lot of outspoken people in the NBA when it comes to social justice issues, when it comes to issues of gun violence. We've heard Steve Kerr be very passionate about this topic. And most recently, we heard Greg Popovich be very passionate about this problem in America, this epidemic of gun violence. Senator Ted Cruz, you know him well down there in Texas. If you're listening to me in Houston, Austin, Dallas, one of our affiliates there. You know Ted Cruz well. and certainly no stranger to controversy. Interestingly, it should be mentioned that after the school shooting that took place in Tennessee recently, after that shooting, Ted Cruz took to Twitter and he put up a post that said, "We protect our banks. We have armed guards at the banks protecting our money. Why don't we have that in schools?" And then this week, a bank got shot up and 5 people are dead. Yeah, not Ted Cruz's greatest moment. So Ted Cruz has been taking on Greg Popovich after Popovich, who's been a prominent voice when it comes to restrictions on people carrying guns. Well, here's what happened. Greg Popovich told reporters on Sunday, quote, "Ted Cruz will fix it because he's going to double the number of cops in the schools." Well, that'll create a great environment. Is that freedom? Again, that was after the mass shooting at a Christian school in Nashville. This week, there was another mass shooting at a bank in Louisville, as I mentioned. Popovich said Cruz would hide his gun control argument in the myth of the Second Amendment, the freedom. You know, it's just a myth. It's a joke. It's just a game they play, Popovich said. I mean, that's freedom. Is it freedom for kids to go to school and try to socialize and try to learn and be scared to death that they might die that day? Pop has accused lawmakers of not doing nearly enough to stop the plague of mass shootings that we see around America, protect children in schools, a position that he has been even more outspoken on since the Uvalde shooting last May. Cruz responded during a Wednesday episode of his podcast, maybe you've heard of it, Verdict with Ted Cruz. He says it's all about political polarization. We've seen for a long time that there are a lot of institutions in sports that don't really like their fans very much, don't really like their customers, don't respect their customers, that look down on them. Popovich is someone who has been a partisan for a long time. He's a liberal Democrat, Cruz said. See, now that's Cruz not even answering the issue, not even addressing the problem. If anybody's turning it political, it's Ted Cruz. The people that can create change on this issue are the 100 United States senators that sit in Washington and that other large body called the House of Representatives. They're the ones that could actually create change in this issue, that could actually turn the tide on gun violence, do something to change the narrative that exists in America today, that basically no place is safe. I'll tell you a funny story. I live in Palm Springs, California. I've lived in New York City. I've lived in San Francisco. I've lived briefly in Seattle. I've lived briefly in Cleveland. I've lived in North Dakota, Maryland, New Hampshire, Connecticut, you name it, Massachusetts. I have gotten to a point in life where, and my partner will tell you this. I'll put him on the mic. He'll tell you the story. Whenever we go anywhere, I have PTSD and I've never even been involved in a shooting. Whenever we go to any restaurant, a movie theater, a public gathering, I have always got to be sitting in a spot and positioned in such a way where I can see who's coming and going from the establishment, because I'm that kind of scared that if I'm in a large gathering somewhere, we're a target. You can't live your life in fear. I don't know how else to deal with it, because either that or I just don't go out and I stay in all the time. And I have friends that won't go to certain places because of the fear of mass shootings. And I've said this before and I'll say it again, not to go overly political, but I'll finish the thought with this on this segment. it is a uniquely American problem. You do not see it in Canada. You do not see it in other countries around the world. You don't see it. I'm not talking about, third world countries where everybody's running around with a gun and drug lords rule the streets. I'm talking about most countries, that we think of around the world. It is a uniquely American problem. And instead of talking about, Greg Popovich is a liberal Democrat. Hey, Ted Cruz, come up with a solution that doesn't involve all of us having to carry guns and walk around like it's the wild, wild west. How about that? But unfortunately, my anger on this topic likely falls on deaf ears, but I have an obligation to speak out when I have a platform, and there was an opportunity to do so when an NBA head coach takes on a United States senator. And by the way, I'm not anti-gun. There's too many guns in the country to be anti-gun. You'd never be able to get them all off the street. But there's got to be more common sense on the issue, and there just isn't. We're coming back on the Cash In. All right. Yeah, sure. Yes. Cash. Cash. That's cash. Oh, great opportunity right now. 1.5. All right. By the way, live betting alert. Beep, 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 We're all about fancy sound effects on the show. Pelicans right now trail the Thunder by 2 with 7:19 to go in the third quarter. It's Pelicans minus 1.5. This is a golden opportunity for you to make some money tonight. Now it's 74-71. It might even get down to a half point or an even or a pick'em game. Run. Go put your money on the Pelicans right now at minus 1.5. Dave in Connecticut, I know you're on hold. Don't punch him up yet. Dave in Connecticut, I know you're on hold. Go and get the Pelicans minus 1.5. You would have made a fortune last night if you listened to me instead of, pulling over on the side of the road or something. I know you were on the road last night listening to us. But last night was that night to just kill it with the Lakers. One of our listeners already texted in, said he put 3 bets on the Lakers, and he won all 3 bets. That was the game last night. We'll keep tabs on the Thunder and the Pelicans as they continue to play about midway through the third quarter. I'm just hoping. I'd like to see the Pelicans get in just to see if they could get Zion on the floor. The West is so wide open that if they got Zion back, even if he played 25 minutes per game, even if he played 20 minutes a game, it would make an enormous difference for that team. Pelicans minus 1.5 right now. That's the bet. That one we will lock it in. Minus 1.5 on the Pelicans. That is our live bet special on the show tonight. Pelicans minus 1.5 if you can get it at that number. And right now, it's 2.5, but a moment ago when I said it, it was 1.5. So that's the number. All right, Dave in Connecticut. Feels like you've took a bit of a hiatus from the show, Dave. I don't know if many people are going to ever live there. It's Delaware. But wait a second. It can only grow so much. It's a tiny state. It's like a postage stamp. See, I feel the same. It's funny you say that because I feel the same way about where I live, which is all desert. But you can literally just buy your own share of the desert and build whatever you want. I mean, there's so much available land out here. We were just looking at something the other day. Just north of Palm Springs, there's a place called Desert Hot Springs. And in Desert Hot Springs, you could buy, 3 acres? I think it was 3 acres. You could buy 3 acres for like $65,000. Oh my God, it'd be a lot in Connecticut. Yeah. I like it. I'm good. I'm good with that. I will endorse that bet. Pelicans -2. I saw that. Congratulations. I gotta be honest. I'm not trying to shut you down before you promote anybody else. I don't really care. I don't have a horse in the fight. But at the same, but at the same time, I'm sorry. I need to see what the proven track records are on some of these guys. When it comes to this sort of thing, I need to see like prolonged success, documented success, because I see way too many, and I have friends that work in this industry, that work in the handicapping game and who sell picks and stuff like that, and their numbers are mediocre at best. So and they get paid to do it for a living. I just don't know if anybody out there is legitimately winning a lot. So just betting money. You're saying just betting money lines. Okay. Yes. Ugh. Yeah, you don't have very good running backs. I can tell you that already. That's a good question. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's funny you should mention running backs, and I appreciate the call, Dave. It's funny you should mention running backs because I was just listening to ESPN last night, and they were saying, I mean, it's been forever since you had a running back even taken in the first round. I mean, you just don't get a lot of running backs because there's so many of them. They're a dime a dozen. Speaking of running backs, there's actually running back news coming out of the NFL, and it involves a New York Giant and Saquon Barkley. Remember, the Giants had to make a choice. Sign one, franchise tag the other when it came to Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. They signed Jones. They tagged Barkley. Well, Barkley doesn't want to sign his tag. He wants a real deal. And as a result, he's not reporting for voluntary camps. And I was talking to our friend Matt Verderam today over at SI.com about that whole situation. And he said, Barkley's doing the right thing. He's got to get paid. You never know when you're going to go off the cliff as a running back in this league, especially a high-use running back like Barkley, who's had injury problems. He's got one payday left. And if he puts that payday off for a year and then gets hurt or has a down year, he may never get that payday. So if you're Saquon Barkley, I could kind of understand. You're watching Daniel Jones get paid. You were as vital a part of that offense this year as Daniel Jones was. I can understand why Saquon Barkley wants to get paid. By the way, the opportunities just get better and better. The Pelicans are plus a half a point right now. Now it just went back to minus 1.5. You've got to cash in. You have got to cash in on the Pelicans tonight, folks. This game will dance around. It'll be close. And you might have some anxiety late in the game like you did with the Lakers. But much like the Lakers, if you listen to me, you're going to get a win tonight. We're coming back with more of the cash in. That's the time to hammer the Pelicans. Minus 113 on the money line. Well, just went off the board. Oh, somebody got hit in the face. Saying, where'd that truck come from? Boom! Wake up call. Yeah, that can't feel good. New Yorker. Justin, you're killing me with this music. And here's why. This is a song that would be in my Spotify playlist. I want to make that clear. So it's not the song. But it's not the song for this audience. I mean, it's Michael McDonald. I mean, if you're over the age of 50, maybe over the age of 45, you get this song. I'm trying to draw in a younger audience. Giving me Michael McDonald, man. Come on. You don't even probably know who Michael McDonald is, do you? Okay, you know what? You get some points for that. If this were Around the Horn and Tony Reale were here, you would definitely get a few points for that answer. The fact that you knew he was part of the Doobie Brothers, I'll give you credit for, because most people probably don't even know that. And for a guy in his 20s, such as you, to know that Michael McDonald was part of the Doobie Brothers, it's kind of impressive. It's getting interesting. Late third quarter, Oklahoma City up 91-83. Yeesh. But again, last night, if you remember, Lakers were down 16. And I kept telling you, take the Lakers, take the Lakers. And right now is a great opportunity. Team gets down on an NBA game, I see opportunities. Pelicans are plus 3.5 right now. And they're plus 164 on the money line. Oh, my God. I love both of those. Give me home underdogs all day in this spot. There's still 14 minutes of basketball to be played. You know the Pelicans are going to make a run. Now they're plus 4.5. Oh, my God. How do you not do it? How do you not hammer the Pelicans right now? At plus 4.5, plus 176 on the money line. I like both of them. I'd just be pounding the crap out of that right now if I were listening to the show. And I was in a legal betting state instead of this betting hellscape that is the state of California. It's killing me, man. It's absolutely killing me. The phone number, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. The text line if you want to reach out to the show. Let me know if you're taking my advice and betting on the Pelicans. Send me a betting ticket if you want. I'm even cool with that. 888-670-8549, 888-670-8549 if you want to get with me on that. It's been an interesting week as it relates to the NFL with the news of Odell Beckham Jr. signing with the Baltimore Ravens. And everybody's had a reaction to it. Like I said, I was talking about it today with our friend Matt Verderam over at SI.com. And Rob Gronkowski, who's one that's never been shy on having opinions, has one of his own. He was talking with Kay Adams on Up and Adams over on FanDuel TV. And take a listen to what Rob Gronkowski said to Kay Adams regarding the decision of Odell Beckham Jr. to sign with the Ravens.
Odell signs, big deal, 13 million something bonus, crazy. He's 18 million worth up to that for 1 year with Baltimore. When that deal went through, what'd you think?
I was actually very surprised that he went to Baltimore. It was like, a home run that came out of nowhere. Like I was very surprised. I feel like everyone was surprised. Everyone was talking about the Jets or going to Buffalo, or just possibly going back to the Giants. And all of a sudden, kaboom, he went to Baltimore. To tell you the truth, I think that was the best play as well once it happened. I kind of studied it, went back and thought about the whole process and everything, and what a fit that is. I believe, like I said, Lamar Jackson is going to be staying in Baltimore. He needs a number one wide receiver. They got a couple good wide receivers, but they don't have a number one. So Odell's going to shine right from the beginning. I think the money is very fair as well. There's top players getting $30 million.
Got 11. The top wide receiver. He's getting 18.
Yes.
He didn't play last year.
Yeah, but I think it's fair. It's Odell. I mean, he's going to have a great year. He's been working hard. He had a great year before that. That's why having a bit amount in the incentives is also very is a very good deal for both sides. But I think he's going to go out. He's going to perform, and I think it's a great fitting. Great fitting for the city. Great fitting for the city of Baltimore, and also. I'm getting a little crazy. I just shot, so I'm a little on top of my game right now. My brain is turning right now.
Tell me also what.
All right, and it's a great fitty for the city of Baltimore and for the Baltimore Ravens organization and for Lamar Jackson.
All right, so there you go. Thoughts at Rob Gronkowski. And again, the draft, just a couple of weeks away. Just a couple of weeks away. Matter of fact, we will not be on the night of the draft. We will let VSiN handle the coverage from the draft that night. And I'm okay with that. I can't give you what they can on a night like that. I don't have the resources to do it. So I would rather you get the best coverage you can of the draft on our cash-in affiliates around the country. So I'm very okay with that. Oklahoma City 95, New Orleans 85, final minute of the third quarter. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a little nervous right now about my bravado as it relates to the Pelicans, but I still think you got to stick with them. Oh, almost an and one there for the Pelicans. That would have been nice. 95-85, Oklahoma City on top. Right now it's Pelicans plus 4.5. Plus 200 on the money line. And again, I still like New Orleans. They will make a run in this game, inevitably. Only thing is, with teams like Oklahoma City, sometimes they don't realize they're not supposed to be in this position. And sometimes inexperience could be a bad thing. You get nervous, you get tight. And sometimes it could be a great thing because you're too naive to even know that you're supposed to be in this situation. They're not supposed to be this good. When this team lost Chet Holmgren, before the preseason even started in a glorified exhibition game up in Seattle, everybody thought that the Thunder were going to go the route of Houston, San Antonio, and Detroit and tank. Take the year off and take your shot at Victor Wembanyama and team him up with the rest of this young upstart Thunder team. The Thundercats. And instead, what you had was an organization that decided to go all in on this year. So I'm more than impressed with what this organization has been able to do this year. It's 96-87 Thunder on top of the Pelicans right now with 27 seconds to go in the third. By the way, the Thunder, in 2023, they'll have 2 draft picks. 2024, they'll have 4. 2025, they'll have 4. So they got plenty of draft picks coming up over the next few years. And again, they'll have Chet Holmgren back next year, which is an amazing thing unto itself. Team them up with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The problem I've always found for a place like Oklahoma City, and I know we're on in Oklahoma City, so I don't mean this with any level of disrespect. The problem for a place like Oklahoma City is going to be, how do you lure free agents to come and play there? And I think that will always be a problem for this organization. I said, and I was absolutely right, when Russell Westbrook left, who's the last one to basically turn out the lights on their way out the door? Durant, Harden, Westbrook. When all 3 of those guys departed, I said something when I was on NBC Sports Radio. And there were some people that got pretty upset about it in Oklahoma City. But I'll say it again. It went from being one of the hotbeds of the league, one of the most energetic, exciting places to watch a basketball game. And I said, you're now about to become basketball Siberia. Who's going to go play there? Again, show me the big free agent acquisitions for the Oklahoma City Thunder since they lost Russell Westbrook. I'll sit here and wait. Doesn't happen. And that's the problem for places like Oklahoma City. It's the problem for a place like Utah. There's just certain markets in this league, even Orlando, and that's Orlando. Disney, the Magic Kingdom, sun and fun all the time. It's difficult to get players to want to come and play in some of these markets. And Oklahoma City is a small market by NBA standards. And it will always be a problem for Oklahoma City. They're going to have to build it the way they are right now with young, homegrown talent. And then they got to be able to keep that talent. All right, stick around. We'll keep you up to date on what's going on with the Thunder and Pelicans. End of the third quarter. It's the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Big night in the NHL. The final postseason spot has been decided. It was in the Eastern Conference.
Taking a hit along the boards from Teasdale. Nelson maneuvers it for Mayfield. Wrist shot off Montembeau and line. Coming around for Dobson. Islanders turning the heat up here. Dobson, wrist shot, tip, score! Second tonight for Brock Nelson. Islanders by 2.
Huge goal for the Islanders. Took them a little while to get it going after that in-net power play, Brendan. Then they started to really take advantage of what a great play by Dobson. Head up.
Well, congratulations to the Islanders. They're going to the playoffs. That's the good news. Hey, Justin Barbosa, producer engineer at Master Control in Houston. You know what the bad news is? They get the Bruins to start the playoffs. Congratulations. You made it to the playoffs. Now you get to play the team that's basically on one of the most historic runs in the history of hockey. It's just a bad break, you know? I mean, and they only have themselves to blame, by the way. They only have themselves to blame because they lost a game the other night. I want to say it was to Philly or to Washington. It might have been Washington because Washington's been hot garbage too this year. I think they lost a game the other night to Washington. And, you know, that's just Washington's playing for nothing. I mean, Florida mathematically a week ago had the worst chance of the Islanders, Penguins, and it was the Islanders, Penguins, and Panthers. And the favorites to get in were the Islanders and the Penguins. And the Panthers went on a nice little run here to end the year. They get in, and the Penguins find themselves on the outside looking in for the first time in 16 years. It's been 16 years since the Penguins missed the playoffs. You could say what you want about hockey, and every team makes the playoffs, blah, 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 blah. You can go you can go off on that, and that's fine. But to make the playoffs for 16 straight years, if you're a Penguins fan, you've been spoiled. 16 straight years. Brock Nelson, 2 goals. Ilya Sorokin, 17 saves. Last time Pittsburgh didn't take part in the NHL postseason, 05-06. That was Sidney Crosby's rookie year. Longest active run in any sport was their 16-year streak in the playoffs. And Pittsburgh controlled its own fate heading into Tuesday night, but they lost to the awful Blackhawks 5-2. Islanders only needed to earn a point against the Canadiens to clinch a postseason berth. So the Islanders with 93 points move a point ahead of idle Florida. Oh, so wait a second. Florida could still... So here's the deal. Right now, the Islanders would not play the Bruins. They'd be they'd play the second seed. But Florida concludes its regular season Thursday night at home against the Hurricanes. If Florida wins that game in regulation, overtime, or a shootout, they'll go up against the first place team in the Metropolitan Division, and the Islanders will play the Bruins. If the Panthers lose to Carolina in overtime or a shootout to earn 1 point, they'll play against the Bruins, while the Islanders and Panthers would have 93 points. New York would own the second tiebreaker, which is combined regulation and overtime wins. That's it. I can't. That's as far as I can go on the NHL. With all due respect to my friend Dennis Bernstein at thefourthperiod.com and SiriusXM NHL, I just can't. If I got to start going into hockey playoff tiebreakers, especially when we're talking about the bottom of the conference, I can't do it. By the way, go take a look at the Western Conference in the NHL. It is very similar to the Western Conference in the NBA. Literally anybody can come out of the West. I mean, one of the wild card teams in Seattle The Kraken, I think, have 101 points this year. Anybody can come out of the West. Best wishes going out to an injured umpire. If you didn't see it, you may not want to. Larry Vanover got hit during Wednesday afternoon's game in Cleveland between the Yankees and the Guardians. It was scary. The second base umpire hit in the head by an errant relay throw from Guardians second baseman Andres Jimenez. Had to leave the game. I'm actually looking at the play now because I guess I'm morbid curiosity. Oh, man, that is not good. So it was a relay throw to the plate, and Vanover took it right off the mush. Right off the side of the head. And they took him out of the game. Had a pretty good-sized knot on his head, according to the Associated Press, who talked with umpire Chris Guccione, and was undergoing tests at a nearby hospital. They're doing a concussion test. Sounded like he was coherent, knew kind of what was going on, Guccione told the AP. But he did have that glazed look on him. He's going to be at the hospital for the rest of the night, they said. I listen, we talk about concussions in sports. And put the Vanover thing aside because that's just a freak sort of accident. But put that aside, and you think about how many times catchers just get drilled in the mask by foul balls. And they may not get diagnosed with concussions, but there's no way you can convince me that a lot of these catchers that play for many years aren't walking around with some scrambled brains. There's just no way. I mean, you see how hard the ball comes off the bat. And when a ball gets fouled straight back into the catcher's mask, that's literally a guy being right on a pitch and just missing it and fouling it straight back at what? I don't care how close a range. It's still coming back at 100 miles an hour, and you're just getting drilled in the mask. And there is no way you can convince me that baseball doesn't have its own sort of concussion issues as a result of that stuff. It may not get the same sort of publicity, and it doesn't get glamorized the same way we see with head injuries in the NFL. But I find it difficult to believe that catchers don't have concussion issues as they get later into life. By the way, the Yankees have won every series so far in the early going. They're 8-4, and they're still 4 games out of first place in the American League East because the Tampa Bay Rays won again today. They're 12-0. They are 1 win away from tying history. Brewers and Braves, 82 and 87, both started out 13-0, the best starts in the history of Major League Baseball, and they did it at the expense of the Red Sox, so I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of okay with that. By the way, this is why you listen to this show. It ain't over yet, so I'm not taking a victory lap. But under 8 to go, fourth quarter, New Orleans 101, Oklahoma City 100. This is why you listen to this show. Oh, and they're getting testy. Josh Giddey just got drilled on a screen. I don't know who hit him, but Giddey was ready to rumble. Giddey was ready to rumble. And I see him yelling at somebody on the Pelicans and saying, "Don't do it again. Don't do it again." Yeah, your typical NBA dust up. Oh, come on. Really? That's what he was up in arms about? Really? I've seen a lot worse than that in the NBA. Let me see here. Oh, he went low. Oh, did you see it, Justin? Yeah, he took a shot at the family jewels. Who was that for the Pelicans that took a shot south of the equator? Was it Richardson? So Richardson went south of the border on Josh Giddey. And Giddey was like, "Don't you do it again." Zion Williamson wearing a football jersey? What is he doing? Let me see this again. I want to see. Did he get him below the? Oh, yeah. He dipped the elbow and went right. Oh, yeah. It was Josh Richardson. Giddy's like, let me at him. And then he's like, yeah, on second thought, you know what? I'm just going to yell about it. What kind of did they throw him out of the game? What'd they do? All right. I have no idea. We'll come back. Tell you what's going after the top of the hour. It's the cash in. Yeah, it's dirty. He said, don't do that bullshit again. I'm reading his lips. So I'm guessing flagrant one. Yeah, it's going to be a flagrant one. What are you thinking there if you're Richardson? Why are you doing that? This makes no sense. I'll be right back. It's really tasty, and I like it. That's what happened. It's just it. At least I'm not drinking soda. Did you eat dinner? Mm-hmm. You did? Mm-hmm. Okay. Papa dogs. Enough is enough is enough is enough. Oh, wide open. Yeah, sure. That should probably do it for the podcast. Oh, 3-ball, corner pocket. Oh no, 2, long 2. This game's going to be a fun finish. Oh, Valanciunas limping up the floor. Wednesday/Thursday edition of the show, and boy, do we got a good one for you in the final hour. Pelicans and Thunder tied at 106, 4.5 to go in Nolans. What a basketball game. Jonas Valanciunas, I think, has 18 boards in this game, something like that. You got these two teams going toe-to-toe after each other. Man, what a great basketball game. And look, I mean, if you're Adam Silver and this league, and you are, watching what's going on here, you've got to love it. It is a glowing endorsement for the play-in tournament. Everybody likes to say, the play-in tournament, who's going to win? It's like saying, is a 16 seed going to win the NCAA tournament? You can't get upset if you're a 15 or a 14. You got no chance to win the tournament anyway. What are the chances a 10 seed just barely eking into the play-in tournament? What are the chances they're going to be able to win? Who cares? Professional sports are an entertainment option. There's a zillion things I can choose to watch on a Wednesday night if I wasn't hosting a nationally syndicated sports radio show. Charge called on Pelican. Wow, what a game. So Oklahoma City leads New Orleans 108-106. 4:06 to go in the fourth quarter. Somebody's going to call a timeout soon because you're only allowed to have two, I think, with under 2 minutes. So somebody's going to call a timeout soon. Boy, oh boy, that could have easily been a charge. If I'm the Thunder, I consider, I don't know if they'd already used their challenge, but I would consider using a challenge in that spot. That's a questionable call. Anyway, CJ McCollum is at the free throw line. And we're set up for another great finish. 3 of the 4 play-in tournament games so far have been fantastic. And by the way, Miami should have to go home now. They shouldn't even get a chance to play Friday night because of everybody that's played in this play-in tournament so far, they have played the least inspiring game of the 4 games we've seen. Miami should just have to go home. They don't get a chance to play on Friday night if I'm the czar of basketball. Josh Giddey just turned it over. He's not giddy about that. And all night long, yours truly was telling you, take the Pelicans. I said take them when they were minus 2.5. I said take them when they were minus 1.5. I said take them when they were plus 3.5, plus 4.5. Take them on the money line. Take them, take them, take them. This is why. Close game, down the stretch, at home. And again, anything can happen, but I love New Orleans in this spot. You're kind of watching the end of this game, and it feels a little like last night's game between the Pelicans and the Thunder. It kind of feels like last night's game between the Lakers and the T-Wolves, where it's a battle of attrition. Both teams are tired. Extended minutes for a lot of these guys. The rotations get shorter. And you've got a young Thunder team, and you wondered what would happen late in the game if they started to realize they were in that moment, that they had a chance to advance to Friday night and an opportunity against the T-Wolves. And would it start to sink in? Would the moment become too big? And right now at 3:12 to go in the fourth quarter, it's starting to appear that the moment might be coming too big for them. And again, that's not an indictment. It's a young team. None of these guys have been in this position before. Almost none. So I'm not crushing these kids. And that's what they are. I mean, these are kids. This is a team of, young guys that are going to be good for years to come. And again, the only thing you could hope for is they somehow manage to get themselves, a couple of bona fide veteran, not superstars, but guys that could still play and kind of show them the ropes. I'm not talking about Josh Richardson either, hitting people south of the border. Coming up in this hour, our 2 for 1 tonight, if you missed it in the opening hour of the show. Chris Mannix of SI, NBC Sports Boston, will get his thoughts on the rest of the NBA postseason, which is kicking into full gear this weekend. Worked with Chris for years over at NBC Sports Radio. He does a terrific job, and looking forward to catching up with him. It's been a long time. Jeff Bezos is not going to buy the Washington Commanders. But I thought it was kind of assumed that he wasn't going to buy him either, because reportedly Daniel Snyder wasn't going to let him. I mean, Daniel Snyder could still choose ultimately who he sells the team to. And Jeff Bezos could buy, not for nothing, here's what's crazy. Jeff Bezos, who according to Forbes has a net worth of $125 billion, buying the Commanders, which are what, $7 billion? I think that's what the report is they're worth. $6 billion? Okay. I mean, it's not even, 4% of his net worth? A lot of times when guys have to go buy teams, and guys go to become owners of teams, they got to go and get partners. They got to go find financing. Jeff Bezos can literally write a check. How many people can simply write a check to go buy a team? Even Steve Ballmer probably had to go find partners. Show me some of the, I don't know what Mark Cuban's worth. Hey, Justin, go find out what Mark Cuban's net worth is for me. Rockets owner Tillman Fertitta was interested as well at one point. 3 different groups toured Washington's facilities. Josh Harris, who owns the NBA 76ers and the NHL's Devils, has submitted an official offer. And again, reportedly around $6 billion. Yeah, I mean, even Mark Cuban would have to go get help if he wanted to buy the Washington Commanders. $5.1 billion. And even he would have to go and get some help. He'd have to go to the bank and get a loan. That's what I mean. Jeff Bezos at $125 billion could walk in and literally say, he could give it to him in cash. All cash deal. Puck News, by the way, beat everybody to this. I don't know what Puck News is, but Puck News first reported. I've never heard of Puck News. First report, and I'm saying Puck with a P, just so you know. If you're listening on AM radio, that might have sounded vulgar. FM radio, you're okay. Streaming me, you're okay. But if I'm on the AM dial and somebody hears me say Puck News, they might be saying, whoa, he just dropped an F word, I'm calling the FCC. Puck News first reported that Bezos wasn't currently planning to bid on the team. And when asked if Bezos was going to make a bid, a source close to Bezos told ESPN, not going to happen. Bezos owns the Washington Post, and reportedly Snyder wasn't going to let him buy the team because the Washington Post has published several investigative stories over the last 3 years that led to issues for Daniel Snyder and the organization. So Snyder basically was going to say, F you, now we're not going to let you buy the team. By the way, I'm sure if Bezos wants to buy a team at some point, he's going to be able to join the club. I mean, his money is good. All right, we got 2:52 to go in the fourth quarter after a timeout that felt like it took forever. Both the Pelicans and the Thunder have 2 timeouts remaining. And I'm telling you, this game has such a similar feel to last night. I mean, the Thunder are struggling to get off any kind of offense right now. They're struggling to get off any kind of good shots. And you're seeing exactly what I said. I mean, if they win this game, it's not going to be because they played outstanding. They got a good look there. Dunk at the basket. Good offensive set coming out of a timeout and out of bounds play. So 110, 231 to go. And look, I mean, if you're the Thunder, you can't ask for much more on the road in this spot than to have a chance, now down by a couple after Brandon Ingram hits a bucket here. It's good to see that New Orleans arena, Smoothie King Center, sort of in a tizzy and fans really excited because you watch a lot of regular season games there and the atmosphere is just meh, unless Zion is playing and then it's kind of exciting. But, I mean, fans there, kind of blah. The Pelicans are sort of an entertainment option. They're still not something that's ingrained in that community. It hasn't been around that long. Ingram turns it over there. Thunder tied at 112 with 140 to go. Boy, who knows where we'll be when we come back on the other side. Maybe another overtime game tonight in the play-in tournament? Sign me up for that. Although I want our fans who followed me on this bet to win as well. We're coming back. The cash-in continues on SportsMap Radio. And Brandon Ingram is taking this game into his own hands.
Jones again, ball denial, so Giddey has it. Giddey crossover, gets inside, turns, he's tied up, back out Williams. Jalen Williams to drive.
Oh, they called a foul? On the floor? Or in the act?
Huge free throws right now for the rookie. And your best players making plays. Shea in transition, crossover, scoop shot, and then a tough play by Brandon Ingram. This is outstanding defense. He sees bodies and uses that strength and length to get to his spot. Knock down the tough dude. First free throws of the game for Williams, 70% from the line during the regular season.
Oh,
This is the first.
clang.
And if I'm down at the other end, I have to be more aggressive against Brandon Ingram and make him find Jackson Hayes or Herb Jones. Knocks down the second 1-point game. To me, if you're in New Orleans, the luxury of not just having Brandon Ingram, but also a veteran in C.J. McCollum, who's comfortable making plays down the stretch of the ball. Both teams with still 2 timeouts left. Hayes looking. He missed on Cutting Murphy. Jones up top to McCollum. McCollum on the drive. The floater's up. Shot.
Ugh.
Good. Williams the rebound.
Oh, boy. There we go.
They want to get a 2 for 1 if they could. Gilgeous-Alexander drives, gets inside. The floater.
Oh,
What a shot from Gilgeous-Alexander.
wow.
And the Thunder
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, you hurt me. Oh,
He's got 28 points. Both these teams throwing haymakers at each other. Back and forth we go. Pelicans will have the ball. Down 1 when we return.
wow.
The future is threatened, but enemies often unseen.
Jesus. All right. Comes down to this for the Pelicans. They trail by 1 with 28 seconds to go, and they will have the basketball after taking a timeout. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just hit a huge bucket on a drive to the basket. And it was a 2-for-1 where it gave the Pelicans an opportunity to get the ball back before the end of the game, even if New Orleans winds up scoring. They get it to Ingram. And he's defended really well. And they're going to put this ball in his hands and see if he can get off a game-winning shot. No good on the button. They got a foul. Ingram misses. Pelicans have to foul, and they do. With 12 seconds left in the fourth, Ingram comes up short. He was defended well, going for the mid-range shot. So now Josh Giddey's going to get 2 free throws and an opportunity to make this a 3-point game for the Thunder, who really couldn't get much going offensively in this fourth quarter, but now have a chance to try and win this game on the road and advance to a Friday night showdown with the Minnesota Timberwolves in Minneapolis. Wow. Giddey hits both free throws. Pelicans use their final timeout, trailing 117, 114, 12 seconds to go. Now, here's the question. Do you go for the 3 here, or do you try to do the quick 2 even though you're out of timeouts? What do you think, Justin? Do you go quick 2 if it's there? Or do you take best available shot? And if that best available shot is a 3, you go for it. See, I think you go best available. If you can get an easy 2 within a couple of seconds, then fine. You could play the foul game. But if you got an open look for 3, and you got somebody that you feel comfortable in taking it, I think you got to take it. Boy, this would be a huge win for the Thunder. And I'm sorry. Yeah, and I'm not looking to crush Zion Williamson before the result of this game is even final. And it's not sour grapes for me, because I've been sitting here all night telling you that I love the Pelicans to win this game. Even though you would win some of your live bets if you took them at +4.5 or +5.5. Because they're down 3 right now. But, the thing you have to ask yourself is, there's no way you just can't avoid it. And I know it's the fallacy of the predetermined outcome and, what would have happened if Zion was there, and it's, looking in the rearview mirror, that sort of thing. But there's no way they lose this game if Zion Williamson's on the floor. They're probably not even in this position. Did they foul? Okay, so the Thunder foul with 11.3. They had 1 to give. I don't know if that's where I would have given the foul. It's kind of an odd spot to give the foul, but okay, they did. So, boy, oh boy, and that's another foul. Lucas Dort, what are you doing? Just giving the foul up. And Ingram will get 2 free throws now. With 10.4, I mean, the clock basically doesn't move. And now you'll get 2 free throws for Ingram in a 3-point game. So, basically, you play the foul game, and now you're going to have to make a couple more free throws if you're the Thunder here with 10.4 left, if Ingram can make his free throws. By the way, speaking of free throws, Ingram just bricked one off the back of the irons. Hey, Uncle Jason says it all the time, kids. Practice your free throws. The Chicago Bulls tonight beat the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors missed 17 free throws in this game tonight. I don't know what the overall. Let me see if I can get the number. Let me get the box score on it. Ingram makes the second, so you got 117, 115, and the Thunder will take a timeout and get ready to inbound. We'll keep you posted on what's going on there. But tonight in the Chicago-Toronto game, Chicago wins 109-105. Toronto at the free throw line. You ready for this? I'm sorry, I was off. 18 of 36 at the line. Can you imagine an NBA team in basically a playoff game, win or go home, was 18 of 36. And that's why they are going home. Chicago, by the way, 18 of 22 at the line. Toronto was 18 of 36 at the free throw line. That's astonishing when you think about it. And I don't know what kind of a free throw shooting team they were this season. I don't know if it's worth it for us to go and check and find out if this was an anomaly or if they were just a bad free throw shooting team all year. I have no idea. But it's hard for me to fathom that a team could be that bad at the free throw line in such a big game. Let me see. This year at the free throw line, Toronto was, 78. Well, they were 78%, which isn't great, but it's not terrible. It's probably middle of the pack. Oh, my goodness. They call a foul? Wow. So the Raptors, or I should say the Thunder went in for a dunk, got blocked. A foul was called somewhere in the middle of it all. So it's going to be 2 free throws here coming up for the Thunder, who are up by 2. Make 2 free throws, and this game's pretty much a wrap for the Thunder. And if you're Zion Williamson watching this, seeing how all this plays out, talking about, I got mental hurdles to get over in order to get back on the floor. I've got mental hurdles. Man, just get your you-know-what out on the floor, man. Just let this team down. Just sat on the sidelines and watched this team's season basically come to an end. It's hard to believe. It really is. That an NBA player, a young, really good NBA player, wow, they get the lucky bounce on the second free throw. Thunder up 4 with 7 seconds to go, and it looks like it's all but a foregone conclusion here as Ingram. Wow! Oh, my God, did that really just happen? Ingram just hit a 3 with 2.8 on the clock, and now the Pelicans might get one last look here. Now it's 2.8 on the clock. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to get 2 free throws. Wow, what a shot by Brandon Ingram to hit the 3. Wow, could have easily been an and one, too. He got hit on the elbow. Alexander hits the first free throw. Now, if he makes the second, they're asking if he should make the second. So here we go. We'll see and this is the problem. You got no timeouts if you're New Orleans. No timeouts in this spot. All right, so Alexander hits both free throws. Oklahoma City leads by 3 with 2.8 on the clock. You got to figure out a way to get off a shot. Oh, my God, they threw the ball away. Oh, on this basic inbound pass, they threw it away, Justin. You got to be kidding me. They threw the ball away. Oh, you can't end your season that way. No way, man. That's the way it ends for the Pelicans? Are you kidding me? Oh, apparently it is. Wow. Pelicans had 2.8 on the clock. They went to go inbound it to Brandon Ingram. They led him too far and the ball went out of bounds. Well, that's going to do it. My apologies to those of you that were on the losing end of any live bets that you took tonight. I'll take the heat. I've been doing this a long time. I could take the heat. That is an awful way to have your season come to an end. So the 2 home teams tonight, the 2 9 seeds, wind up losing on their home floor to have their seasons come to an end. Wow. That's rough. And before tonight, you never had a 10 seed win one of these play-in tournament games. Tonight, both 10 seeds win. And the upstart Thundercats are headed to Minnesota for a matchup with the T-Wolves on Friday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. We're back with Chris Mannix on the other side to talk some NBA on SportsMap Radio. So bad. So bad. Yeah, that dude got game.
Because you guys are such a young team, close game, a playing game like this, that the advantage might be to the more.
I'll give him a chance against Minnesota, too. Problem is, a lot of those good looks they get at the basket, you're not getting those with Gobert. Gobert's going to disturb a lot of what they do offensively in the middle. They're going to have to make a lot of shots from the perimeter. And not for nothing, you'll rarely hear me ever say stuff like, let me just say this for a moment. I'm going to make a prediction here. I know my prediction isn't very good tonight on the Pelicans to beat the Thunder, but I'm going to make a prediction. Keep an eye on the headlines over the next days and weeks. You're going to start hearing people in that Pelicans locker room grumble about the fact that you got Zion Williamson throwing down 360 dunks in practice shortly before the game begins and out there, making moves in the low post. And we've seen this crap from him for the last couple of years now, and then he doesn't wind up playing at all. And I'm telling you, you're going to start to hear the frustration boil over in New Orleans, whether it's front office, whether it's anonymous sources, whether it's, guys currently on the roster, guys who wind up going, from that roster onto other teams. I can guarantee it, to borrow a phrase from Vince McMahon. I can guarantee you're going to start to hear the whispers and the rumbles of people who are saying, this just is not an acceptable situation. That you cannot have this guy making all this money that you're building a franchise around who isn't even on the floor. But who's, I'm not mentally ready now. I got to feel like Zion. Get your butt out there and play. It's ridiculous. 3 months. The dude missed 3 months with a hamstring injury. 3 months. I'll say it again. It's a disgrace. Chris Mannix does a great job on the NBA for SI, host of the Crossover podcast as well. Also with NBC Sports Boston. I had a chance to catch up with him earlier today and talk about all things NBA related, including the upcoming NBA playoffs, and we got into some of the series with him. We began asking about LeBron James and the amazing effort last night in the win over the T-Wolves, in particular, the diving plays he made late in that game, as well as the pass to Dennis Schroeder.
Well, the fact that he's going, 45, 46 minutes in a play-in game at, 38 years old was remarkable. I thought the dive was interesting only because LeBron was trying to save his own turnover there. I mean, he made the bad play that forced the ball into the backcourt and led to that dive. But, you watch him out there and he's still the most athletic guy on the floor. He's still the most explosive guy on the floor. And I'm not sure when that's ever going to change. Like, if it's not changing at 38 years old, is it going to change next December when he turns 39 or 40? I mean, he really is an athletic marvel, the likes of which we'll probably never see again.
No, I know, and it really is amazing. And then I guess the other play that sort of embodies him, which gets overshadowed because of the Anthony Davis turnover, is the drive to the basket late in the game, the kick to Dennis Schroeder, who hits the three. And again, it's another one of those plays that if you look at his career, it's always been, for all the scoring and the accolades for that and breaking Kareem's record this year, that play, driving to the basket and then finding the open man, that's LeBron in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I was talking to Dwayne Wade about this recently, and we were talking about LeBron breaking the scoring record. And, one thing Wade said was, if there was a record you'd have expected him to be creeping in on, it would be the assist record, because he is a pass-first type of player, and he always has been. I mean, that play was fascinating because if Dennis Schroeder doesn't make that shot, LeBron's getting killed the next day. He's getting killed. People in LA are saying Kobe would have taken it. Name any other superstar. Michael would have taken it. But you're right. LeBron, virtually every time he's in that situation over the last 20 years, he has often passed out because that's the right thing to do. I mean, in that moment, passing the ball was the smart play. The defense had collapsed on him. He had no shot basically underneath the backboard. But in those kind of moments, we have become programmed to expect our stars to take shots and make shots regardless of the defensive situation. LeBron's never had that mindset. He's always been, I'm going to make the right play, and the right play was Dennis Schroeder, who, to his credit, knocked the shot down.
Yeah, he certainly did. And now we talk about the Lakers and the Memphis Grizzlies and kind of fast forward ahead to this weekend and the big games to start this playoff round. I know we think the West is wide open. Memphis and the Lakers, obviously a great matchup. Give me some sense for the Lakers' chances. This is a much different team than the one they started the season with.
Yeah, I think they've got a great chance. In fact, I'd go as far as say I think they're going to win. Look, Memphis is also not the team we saw in the first half of the season. Most significantly, Brandon Clark isn't there. Brandon Clark was a key role player, done for the season with that Achilles injury. That's a 20, 25-minute per game guy that the Grizzlies no longer have in their rotation. And look, the more time that passes between what happened with Ja Morant and today, the better it's going to be in Memphis. But that situation is still relatively fresh. And I think that, at the very least, doesn't have Memphis peaking going into the playoffs. And you look at some of these matchups. I mean, look, Anthony Davis against Jaren Jackson Jr., that's tough. Jackson might be Defensive Player of the Year, but I give Davis an edge in that matchup. LeBron versus whoever, Memphis is going to roll out there at small forward, whether it's Desmond Bane or anybody else. LeBron's got the guy in that matchup. And look, I think the Lakers, because of the trades they've made, have kind of a wave of guys in the backcourt that can be effective, whether it is Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, Schroeder, who, by the way, should only play for the Lakers the rest of his career. It seems like he's bad everywhere else but Los Angeles. I just think the Lakers, because of how top-heavy they are with LeBron and AD, and because of the moves they made that put them in position to have shooting and playmaking around those guys, let's just say this. If they steal one of those first two games in Memphis, it's over. It's over. They're going to win that series because they'll regain home court advantage.
Talking with Chris Mannix. Chris, the series that's the most juicy in the West is obviously Golden State and Sacramento, and nobody's giving Sacramento a chance. So try and give me some sense for why we could believe the Kings do wind up beating the Warriors.
Well, I'm not sure that they do. Look, Golden State's defensive issues are real, and they are not simply resolved because Andrew Wiggins is back. Andrew Wiggins played almost the entirety of the first half of the season, and Golden State on the road was an abysmal defensive team. So he doesn't change that. And the odds that we're going to see the real Andrew Wiggins, at least for the first couple of rounds of these playoffs, are not high because you don't take 20 some odd games off and come back and hit the ground running. He certainly helps, and it makes their bench deeper because you can move guys back to that second unit. Jordan Poole, Gary Payton's going to be back in that mix. But Golden State's defensive issues are real. And if there's anything Sacramento can do, it's score. I mean, they have one of the most prolific offenses that we've seen since the Mike D'Antoni era. They really do. They might be more prolific at times and in different ways than what Golden State was in its heyday. Not better, but very different because Sabonis is the head of the snake with that team offensively. So their chance to win is simply just putting it on Golden State defensively and winning some of these games 140, 128, 135, 120. They are a cartoonishly bad defensive team. Like they try hard, but they are just individually, basically outside of Davion Mitchell, 1 through 8, bad defensively.
But are they?
But if
let me stop you and ask you: are they that bad? Because I went nuts the other night. I think they gave up 69 in the first half at home to Oklahoma City, or 70 something. I mean, it was an absurd number. And then in the second half, they gave up 47. And I'm sitting there trying to ask myself:
blind luck?
Is
blind lit out?
What is it?
It's not effort. I've watched a lot of Kings games, several in person. They play hard on that end of the floor. They're just bad. Like Sabonis is a bad defensive player. Fox is an average to below average defensive player. Keegan Murray, average to below average defensive player. Look, they've got a coach who is renowned for being a defensive minded guy who comes into this coaching situation with a great defensive, backdrop, a great defensive history. And they're still bad. Look, they're better than last year because last year they were god awful, but they're still not good. And really, outside of Davion Mitchell, there's nobody you can put on Steph or Clay or whomever and expect to at least make them work for stops. So in my mind, they have to just, basically collect the ball out of the basket and try to get more threes than twos than Golden State does on that end.
So there you go. Thoughts with Chris Mannix on the Western Conference and some of the more pivotal matchups there. Now we'll get into it with him on the Eastern Conference in particular. Can the Knicks knock off the Cavaliers? That is really the most intriguing of the first round matchups with the 4-seed Cavaliers and the 5th-seeded Knicks. The Knicks have been road warriors all year. They've been as good as anybody in the league on the road. Donovan Mitchell. That 4-5 matchup is really the juiciest of the first round as it pertains to the Eastern Conference. So we'll get into that with Chris Mannix on the other side. Some other questions about the East as well. The Cash In on SportsMap Radio continues. Stay with us. Thank you for being with us tonight. Our 2 for 1 is Chris Mannix, the NBA writer, reporter, SI, and NBC Sports Boston, host of the Crossover podcast. Our guest in the 2 for 1 tonight here on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. In the first segment with him, we talked about the Western Conference playoff matchups. Now we're talking about the Eastern Conference playoff matchups and getting into it on the Knicks and the Cavaliers and what ought to be a very entertaining series.
All right, Chris, give me some sense for the Knicks and Cavaliers, this 4-5 matchup. We obviously know Boston and Milwaukee are pretty safe as far as the opening round of this postseason is concerned. But give me some thoughts on the Knicks, who certainly, after a rough start to the season, played really well. A lot of people look at the Cavaliers as that team that's the next tier down, along with the Sixers from Boston and Milwaukee. What kind of a chance do you give the Knicks, and how much will Julius Randle have to do with that?
This is probably the most compelling first-round matchup in either conference because, both these teams are pretty evenly matched. It's compelling because Donovan Mitchell is going to be in Madison Square Garden in Game 3, and that script writes itself because of what happened this past offseason. You mentioned Randle, and that's my biggest question going into this series because Julius Randle has shown for the better part of the last 3 seasons that he can be a really, really effective regular season player. But in the playoffs, when you go up against a good defense and you give an opposing coaching staff just one team they have to dig into, Atlanta certainly found a way to get to Julius Randle. They didn't do it through rocket science either. They just showed Julius Randle a second defender when he had the ball on the perimeter, and Julius Randle took dozens of contested twos in that first round series against the Hawks, and it was a disaster. Now, things have changed in New York. There was no Jalen Brunson 2 years ago. Jalen Brunson has made the Knicks a lot more diverse offensively, and his presence, I would argue, has helped Julius Randle regain that all-NBA level form that he had a couple of years ago. But still, there are times I watch Julius Randle, and especially in the fourth quarter, and he just becomes kind of a vacuum where he just gets the ball and decides he's going to make the play because he's the all-star, he's the face of this franchise, and he's going to be the one to do it. And when he does that, 9 times out of 10, it's not a positive outcome. So that concerns me about the Knicks going to the playoffs because they're going to go up against the number 1 defensive team in the NBA, a team that really offensively is built to play in the playoffs because they had one of the slowest paces in the NBA. They did not play in transition. They just played half-court basketball, and that should bode well for their chances in the playoffs. They're deep. They're big on the front line. They got a lot of good quality defenders they can throw out there. I think how Julius Randle goes is how the New York Knicks go. If he has an efficient series, the Knicks are going to win it. If he has a series like he had against Atlanta, they'll get beaten 5 or 6 games.
Boston and Milwaukee, all year long battling for the top spot in the Eastern Conference. At the end of the year, you look at the standings, and they're relatively close. Obviously, Milwaukee winds up with the top seed. But the feeling around the Celtics still feels so much more ominous than it does around Milwaukee. Tell people why that is.
Yeah, they've had like a Benjamin Button type season when compared to a year ago. A year ago, they started off in the toilet, and then in mid-January, they found a rhythm and just built on it all the way into the NBA Finals. This year, they picked up where they left off early, but some of the adversity that hit along the way, they haven't recovered from quite as well as I think people would like. Some of that is injuries. Rob Williams being in and out of the lineup, that's been problematic for this team. Grant Williams has been a problem. Look, the Celtics don't get past the second round of the playoffs last year without Grant Williams being great. Go back to Game 7 against the Bucks. It was Grant Williams, not Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, that really won that game for Boston on their home floor. He has not been the same player we've seen from years ago. So, look, I reserve judgment on Celtics against Bucks until I see who's playing for Celtics against Bucks. Chris Middleton is once again dealing with another injury. I don't know what Robert Williams is going to look like once he gets that deep into the playoffs. I just need to see who's got the full strength on the personnel side before I can predict which of those 2 teams will come out of the East. But I do think they're the 2 teams that'll be standing in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Give me the one team that can upset that scenario. Is it Philadelphia?
I like to say it's Philadelphia because it's an easy one, but the Sixers, Boston just owns the Sixers and has for the last couple of years. I mean, look at the game from a week and a half ago where Joel Embiid went for 52. They needed all 52 of those points just to win. And the Celtics were playing, I believe, without Brown and without Robert Williams. And, they weren't at full strength. And still the Sixers almost lost it. Boston just seems to have the right matchups for them. They got a bunch of guards with Smart and Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon that they can throw at Harden and Tyrese Maxey. Al Horford does a credible job defending Joel Embiid, always has. And Rob Williams back there, that's another big shot blocker that they can put on that front line. I don't think Philadelphia gets past Boston, if we're being honest. And if it's not Philadelphia, maybe it's Cleveland. I mean, I've got a story going up on SI.com on Thursday about the Cavaliers and if they're ready or not. Because in talking to Donovan Mitchell, he believes that they have all the pieces there. They've got size, they've got skill, they've got him, quite frankly, to be that lead guard that can make shots in the closing seconds. What they don't have is experience. And history shows you can't succeed in the playoffs without experience. Now, can they overcome that because they're talented? Maybe, but if we're looking at second round matchups and teams to upset the apple cart, get to the finals, I would like Cleveland's chances of beating Milwaukee more than I like Philadelphia's chances of beating Boston.
That's Chris Mannix of Sports Illustrated. Check out his work at SI.com, NBC Sports Boston as well, and the Crossover NBA podcast. Chris, always appreciate it, my friend. It's been a long time. I'm glad we got to do it. Let's do it again soon.
You got it. Anytime.
Great to talk with Chris after so many years. We worked together at NBC Sports Radio, and he's carved out a great career for himself. So happy to get to catch up with him a bit. All right. We are good on the play-in. Now we're all set for the play-in tournament finale on Friday. We've got odds. Lots and lots of odds. So here's what we got for Friday night's games. The early lines are in. Chicago is a 4.5-point underdog on the road in Miami. I'm not going to lie, that shocks me. Given how absolutely of a lackluster performance Miami put forth on Tuesday night, that shocks me. I mean, I love Chicago plus 4.5 on the road. They went and won in a tough place in Toronto. See if the Heat fans actually show up on Friday night for that game. Thunder and T-Wolves is also 4.5. It's Oklahoma City plus 4.5. I don't know if I'd be able to put anything past. I don't know if I could put anything past the Thunder after they went into New Orleans and won tonight. I'll get fooled once. I'm not going to get fooled again. But the T-Wolves will have Rudy Gobert back, and I think he disrupts a lot of what Oklahoma City's going to want to do in terms of getting into the paint. They're going to have to make more perimeter jumpers if they're going to be able to win that game on the road in Minnesota. And here's the other thing. Anthony Edwards was 3 for 17 against the Lakers on Tuesday night. What are the chances he goes 3 for 17 again? Now, he has had a couple of games like that this year that do sort of make you scratch your head. And he just keeps jacking up shots even when he's not making them. But Oklahoma City and Minnesota should be a really interesting game. A lot of good young firepower between those two teams. So we'll see what happens with that one on Friday night. So those are your early odds on those games. By the way, we mentioned the Knicks and Cavaliers. Knicks plus 6 on the road in Cleveland on Saturday night. I love the Knicks at that number. Plus 6? How do you not? All the baseball games are final with the exception of one. Dodgers lead the Giants 10-5 in the bottom of the ninth. 2 outs in that game, so that is about to go final. Houston finally got another win today, beat Pittsburgh 7-0. Minnesota beat Chicago 3-1, that Chicago being the White Sox. We already mentioned the Yankees win earlier. Mets got a win over the Padres, so they win that series. Seattle salvaged a finale against the Cubs 5-2. St. Louis handled the Rockies. Hey, the A's got a win for a change. Beat Baltimore 8-4. Couple of bad teams won today. Kansas City beat Texas 10-1 as well. It's going to do it for us. Nice job tonight, Justin Barbosa. Have a great weekend. We're back with you on Thursday night for more of the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Have a great night. Bye. Are you on tomorrow night? That's right. It is Brian the next 2 nights. That's why I said have a nice weekend. I knew there was a reason. All right. Have a good night, man. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. All right. For those of you watching on the video side, thanks for hanging out tonight and enduring me and the playoff basketball. We'll see you back here on Thursday night. Brian McDonald will be producing and engineering the last 2 nights of this week. Look forward to working with Brian and all sorts of good stuff to talk about. Have yourselves a great night. I'll see you back here tomorrow. I'm Jason. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.